Hello and welcome to Why Choose a Graduate Scheme webinar. This has been created to ensure that you're choosing the best career path for you after your time at university, and has been produced following research from the Bright Network, which suggested that only 1 in 4 students knew the difference between a graduate scheme and an entry-level role, and a further 23% didn't know the difference between the two. So after this research, we went out to universities and the students to find out the questions that you wanted to know, and we're going to put them to our graduates here. So firstly, just to introduce us all, I'm Sabina. I'm part of the Reed Graduate Scheme team. I've been at Reed for 3 years. I joined as in an entry-level role. I'm someone that didn't know the difference between the two. But after a year and a half, I moved into the graduate scheme, and I'm still on it today.
Okay, hi, I'm Dylan. I'm on my first year of the graduate scheme. I'm currently an employment advisor for Reed in Partnership. Obviously, I've only been here for, I think it's about 10, 11 months now. So going into what would be the second year in the next couple of months.
I'm going to be there. I'm working for Reed Online as the customer success manager. I think I've been here for about 2 years now. I'm going to start my 3rd year in the next couple of weeks, actually. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Ross Townsend. I'm a senior consultant in the technology division in Manchester. I've just celebrated my 2nd year with Reed a couple of weeks ago. Again, joined in an entry-level role. I moved into the grad scheme about 3 months in. So just finishing up my 2nd year now.
So to get into the questions, the question we're all here for, why choose a graduate scheme, and what is the difference between a graduate scheme and an entry-level role to you?
For me, I found the difference that an entry level can be a bit more of a straightforward path. It might be a bit more direct and not give as many options, whereas a graduate scheme usually has that more variety to it. You can rotate, you can try different things, sample different areas, which opens up your options if you aren't quite sure on maybe a direct career line yet.
I think the other thing, kind of following on from what Dylan said, I think for me it was obviously the options, but also the support as well. Because I feel like starting as a graduate, I got a lot more support than I saw with the peers around me who'd maybe started an entry-level role. And for me, that was really essential because I'd just come out of university and I wasn't very sure of what I was doing and how I fit into that world of work. That was quite nice to have.
Yeah, I kind of echo those comments. I think for me, having started in the entry-level role and moved into the grad scheme, it's clear to see that the grad scheme offers so many options and so many different career paths. And whilst I've stuck to what I've been doing so far and have enjoyed progressing in that field, I know that even now, sort of 2 years down the line, there's still a world of options to me should I choose to do something different. And that's kind of the main thing for me. I'm not set in one path for life.
Brilliant. So in talking about them, you've talked very much about kind of the career development aspect that a graduate scheme provides you. But in terms of the actual first year role that you all went into, was there any difference in terms of the kind of workload, or kind of, was there any difference that you've noticed from yourself to someone that wasn't on the graduate scheme?
Yeah, I think to hop in from there, in the consultant side, I sort of had extra support and training. The thing that really kind of made the most difference to me was having a mentor. I came into an office that was that whilst it had been established for a while, they were expanding at quite a rate. So when they were expanding, to have that opportunity to have the outside perspective for me, I actually went up to Edinburgh to see a mentor several times and was able to sit with him and get a fresh perspective. And it was maybe that where things were working for certain people that weren't working for me, I was able to take an outside perspective and look at it and come back, and it definitely projected me towards having more success within the business.
Brilliant.
Yeah, for myself, kind of how it differentiated from other employment advisors, because we're in a reasonably big team, I just felt there was a lot more responsibility put on myself to start with, which, you know, some people might panic. I quite enjoyed it. It made it stand out a little bit more from just an employment advisor. It did make you feel like there was something slightly different about you, which was quite nice. It makes you feel a little bit rewarded for spending time with a degree to maybe go into a similar role. And yeah, I enjoyed the responsibility, and it's definitely helped propel me a little bit faster than maybe my colleagues.
Brilliant.
I think, yeah, it's a similar thing for me as as Ross was saying as well, that I think having that mentor made a massive difference, because anytime I was struggling, I was like, oh, I'm not sure what I'm doing, I could go to them and be like, look, this is what I'm thinking, what do you think? And they would give you that push you need sometimes. So I think, yeah, that was definitely like a massive thing for me that made a difference.
Brilliant. And in terms of skills, I mean, when you're a graduate, you don't have a wealth of experience behind you, but you do have transferable skills. So what would you say were the desirable skills that you had, and how did you develop them during your time at university?
I think for me, like, two massive ones that came up were resilience, and I think it was the motivation part, because I remember I went into my interview, it was with Chris Adcock, I want to say, and those are the two questions he was really keen to focus on. He was like, look, I want to know about resilience, and I want to know about what your motivation to work here is. And for me, that had come from kind of understanding what I was doing at university. Like, university in itself had been a difficult time for me because of everything that was going on. And that meant I'd built that resilience in that time, because I'd kept pushing to kind of get those grades or be part of societies that I thought I needed to be part of. And I developed those skills over time. And the other thing that I thought was really essential was the research skills, because I think it was before the interview, I'd already done my research from different people within the industry to find out exactly what I would be asked in those interviews or what I would need to prepare for. And if I didn't have that understanding or that knowledge, I wouldn't have done that. And maybe I would have gone into those interviews a little bit unprepared, or not knowing of what I would be asked potentially.
Yeah, for sure. Same for me, how I found it. I mean, alongside that, I found a lot of the personality skills you kind of develop at university was quite a big thing. So for me, you can kind of, I felt like I put across the sociableness, like being able to talk to people. The fact, to be quite frank, you can multitask, you can get a high grade in your degree whilst also enjoying your time was quite a nice thing to be recognised, because it was a lot harder than it sounds. And I felt like they looked at you as a person quite a bit in the experiences you've had.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd very much echo the personality-based stuff. I think the role I'm in particular is all about networking and getting to know people, and it's a lot of having conversations with people and trying to be able to get along with anyone. But I think that combined with, I think, organisation was the other key skill for me. And I remember that sort of the thing that I transferred most was kind of my last 6 months at uni, organising my time to make sure I got my dissertation done. I got everything done in terms of studying for exams and got final essays in and things like that. Transferred heavily when it came to planning my day here. So it's a little different in terms of I operate day by day here, and my plans are a bit more flexible, but I had to adapt that. But I wouldn't have been able to do that without the planning that came from university, and I think it's fit really well for me.
Brilliant. So now that you've been on the scheme, I mean, some of you are in your second year, going to your third. Dylan, you're in your first, going to your second. But what would you say, or what advice would you give to maybe a past self that was applying from university?
Demonstrate more than just necessarily your career experience. Obviously, that's crucial that you show off your work experience, but you want to show everything you did outside of it. I personally don't think my work experience got me the role. I think the work I did at university with my workers in the society I was in, for example, or the external bits I did, sports, etc., I felt like it developed me more as a person, and that was just as important as the experience you've had in your career. So don't get too obsessed with, I've only had a year's in industry, for example, or you've had no year in the industry. Focus on what you're good at, and show off that you're more than just a career, basically.
Yeah, I think for me, looking back, it would be very much similar along the lines of I did quite a lot to try and make my CV look as if I had a super strong work ethic from having sort of part-time jobs and bits on the side and things like that, but it's actually more demonstrating you as a person. And I think that the best thing about grad schemes is they're not necessarily looking for that work experience of someone who's done 9 to 5 before and can hop straight into an entry-level role. They're actually looking for the personality traits of someone who can be really successful. And I think looking back, if I had sort of one piece of advice to myself, it would be focus on the traits that are going to make me successful rather than on you know, I mean, I did every single job you can imagine under the sun at uni. So, you know, focusing on getting that, I wish I'd gone back and focused more on developing my sort of soft skills ready for a role.
I think, yeah, echoing exactly what kind of Dylan and Ross said, I think for me, it was a case of I was trying to put out this persona of this perfect graduate that they would be looking for. In reality, it's all about like being yourself, because any interview that I went to, they always asked me questions about who I was as a person rather than just, oh, what did you do at university, or what did you do in your work experience. It was always about what motivates you, you know, what excites you, who you are as a person. I think that's what they're always looking for, but sometimes we try to think that that's not important because all they're looking at is my work experience, but that's not the case like 95% of the time.
Brilliant. And is there anything you wish you had done more of or hadn't done during your time at uni? I mean, Ross, you covered that already. You wish you hadn't done as much work experience, but maybe the other two. Is there anything that you thought you went at university, you were like, I really need to do this, and then you were like, why did I spend my time doing that?
I guess, like, oh, sorry, Dylan.
No, I was thinking, you crack on.
I guess in my like second year, I'd taken on like a lot of work from like societies and different kind of groups that I joined, again to make my CV look really good. And a part of me wishes I didn't do that, because by the end of my second year, I was absolutely drained. I was just tired. I didn't have time for anything social. It was all work, work, work. So I think I wish I didn't do that, because I was just so like focused on making my CV look good that I'd forgotten to kind of enjoy certain parts of my second year.
I think probably to contrast that, I think it's more on finding the balance. It's all well and good having a part-time job to get you by at uni or joining societies, and I'd definitely say everyone should do that. But it's finding the balance to be you as well. Like, don't be afraid to take a day or two a week to just sit and, you know, have a life. Because at the end of the day, work will get you so far at uni, but developing those soft skills by actually, you know, allowing the 3-4 years to shape your personality is just as important.
Yeah, kind of to echo what those two have said, to be honest. I managed to kind of balance the life a little bit, but for my first and second year, I was playing semi-professional rugby and trying to do a degree and trying to do a society, and it was hell, to be honest. Like, it really, my second year wasn't probably as good as I wanted to be education-wise, so I sacrificed, a big part of my life, but it's got to be where I am now. So probably don't be scared to take a step back and reevaluate the importance of where your time's being spent. And there's nothing wrong with giving something up if it means something else can prosper.
Brilliant. And what would you say differentiated you from the competition that's out there? Because obviously you've all done brilliantly in the fact that you've got onto a graduate scheme, so brilliant for all of you. But what do you think was your kind of standout feature?
I mean, it's hard not to sound cocky, but probably for me, probably the work I did in my final year. I was president of my society. I took them to a very, very successful year, whilst also managing to get a high 2-1. That for me was harder and more stressful than my year's placement I did, or my year out of university, because I did a year before going on to the graduate scheme that I did. So probably, that it was the fact that I did so much work on society whilst also trying to get a good degree. It really stood out that I wasn't just laying back and, getting by, which, I thought helped me quite a bit.
I think for myself, it probably was more along the lines of just trying something different. I mean, my sort of route to the graduate scheme, obviously I came in off the entry level role, so I then interviewed for the graduate scheme once I started. So for me, the application for the graduate scheme, it was all about, so now that you've been and you've got sort of seen a little bit of an overview of how things are traditionally done here, what would you like to try that is maybe different that we aren't doing, and things like that. And I think I'd hope that I've come across and and tried a few different things that have allowed me to continue. But as far as getting the initial rollout of university, I think again it very much just showed in terms of being proactive and wanting to do different things, you know, and you know, actually caring about the idea of doing the job. You know, being passionate when you came into the interview about why you wanted to work there, which I think you said yourself, Nabila, like you had that in the interview. I think we all had similar questions, and just being able to show a demonstrable passion for why you want to work here is going to get you a long way.
Brilliant.
I think for myself, it was partly like my placement year, because it was a very tough time, because I ended up moving from one company to another because of everything that was going on with the company I was working for. They closed down, they moved me to another one. And because of that, I developed a lot of like adaptability, a lot of resilience, and that's something I could talk about in my interviews. And then obviously everything Ross said around kind of personality and bringing that into the interview, because I went in thinking I was going to be this, you know, perfect graduate person. But when I sat down and spoke to, I think it was Sadkar, I just opened up. He was asking me all these questions. We just had a chat. It wasn't even an interview at that point. And it was in that I realised, okay, this definitely went quite well. And I think, again, it was my ability to be so open to him and just being so honest about why I was motivated and what I wanted to do in the future as well.
Yeah, I definitely think the honesty trait, as Nabila's just said, is massive. Like, it just makes it personable. Doesn't make it feel like you're talking to, you know, a robot. It makes it feel like, yeah, you are talking to a person, and it's just far more relatable. So yeah, I think that's a really good point from Nabila.
I fully agree with that, and just coming in and being yourself. At the end of the day, you know, you can go into an interview and you can mold yourself into this perfect candidate for 90 minutes, but you've got to work with these people for a considerable amount of time afterwards. You've got to just show your real personality and see that you can get on. And it was a big thing for me, you know. The interview process for me, I walked in and instantly clicked with my hiring manager, and I think we spent 20 minutes chatting about football at the end of the interview and stuff. So it was like knowing that you can have that connection with someone, not just in terms of a business sense, but you can actually get along with them. And that's kind of reflected now. You know, I've got a very social team. We're all really close. We do spend a lot of time together just as friends. And that's equally as important, I think, because it makes the work-life balance a lot healthier.
Brilliant. So you've all talked about kind of your interviews and everything like that. Moving from university life to work life isn't the easiest thing. How did you find the transition? And is there any tips that you would maybe give a graduate to best prepare them and ease them through the process?
Sorry, I'll let you go, Dylan.
No, after you, Ross. After you.
I think the thing that I kind of learned was don't be so concerned about rushing things. Because I was living in Leeds when I got the job offer, and the job I accepted was in Manchester. And even though Reed were very accommodating, gave myself a very ambitious start date in terms of dropping everything and moving over to Manchester and finding a place to live and things like that. And whilst everyone at Reed was super supportive, they were helpful, gave me references to get sorted for a house and things like that, which was great. I did turn around to myself and go, have I really just dropped my entire life in a week and moved, you know, to another city? It wasn't the smartest move on my part. You know, don't be afraid if you're going to go on a grad scheme. I know a lot of people move cities and things like that to be where they want to be. You know, give yourself the time to set up a proper life, because that is equally as important that you're happy in your home life. And, you know, I love Manchester. I've had a great time here, but that first week was stressful.
I bet.
Yeah, kind of, as Ross said, just the transition can be hard, especially if you haven't really worked. Some people go for university not working because they're focused on the studies. Just make sure you know when to work, and sounds silly, but when not to. So don't be sat there thinking, because I'm a graduate, because I've got this title as maybe someone that's coming at a slightly higher level, or people look at you slightly different because you're a graduate. Don't be thinking all of that. Just think, okay, get the job done, do what you can. Don't rush it. Things will come slowly. But then just make sure you know how to switch off, because I know a lot of people that I've known have took their work home and carried on because they're a graduate. They feel like they need to do that extra mile. And there's always a sense of obviously going that extra inch, but you've got to look after yourself first, kind of as Ross said. If you're not happy in your home, not happy out of hours, you're going to hate your 9 to 5. So yeah,
I'm so guilty of that. First few months I was super guilty of that. I just wanted to impress. I'd finish work, I'd go home, I'd take a sign in on my laptop or whatever it was, and no one was asking me to do it. There was no pressure. I was just doing it off my own back. But then since I've started doing other things instead and actually giving myself hobbies and a bit of time and a bit of a life, I'm actually performing way better than I was when I used to try and do extra work and things like that. So it just shows that, like, you know, having the right work-life balance makes all the difference.
Yeah.
I think, like, following on from both of that, it's about having like that honest conversation with your manager as well. So kind of when you first start, just having that conversation with them. Look, I've just started, it's my first role, you know, I've just graduated. What are your expectations from me? These are my expectations from you. And kind of setting those like straight away. So again, you can get that work-life balance. You know what you need to do. So if they say, you know, expect to work till 5, you know that's it. You don't need to think, oh, I'm a graduate, I need to take that work home and, you know, push it a little bit harder, because that's not expected of me and I don't need to do that. And that's what I did, I think, with my manager in my first week as well. And that really helped me, because I felt like, again, I could be open with her. And if there was something going on in the first few months where I was struggling with something, I would ask her questions and be like, look, I don't know what I'm doing here. Can you help me out? And that made that transition a little bit easier. So I didn't feel like I was all alone in this.
Brilliant. And that's some really good tips for someone that wasn't or is coming from university and hasn't worked before. But just thinking back at your time at university, back on the graduate scheme, what have been some of the best moments that you've had kind of in the scheme or during your time at Reed?
During the scheme, I think the things being, we've sort of met up and had things together down at the Manor for Reed, and, you know, you network with the graduates and you build connections that are meaningful, and it's fantastic because, you know, I've got friends all over the country now from that. As far as kind of in terms of Reed goes, my division actually had a conference for the first time this year in January, and brought, I think there was 100 and something of us together, all in Manchester, which was great. And we got like this huge network of people together. But the thing was, we spent sort of part of the time focused on the division and how it could go forward. And, you know, the senior sort of team there did a real good job in terms of allowing us all to contribute, and we've helped shape, you know, how we think things should go forward. And that's been fantastic. But then at the same time, we had the social element, and it's great because now collaboration's through the roof. You know, there's not a single person in my division anywhere in the country that I feel afraid to push the call button to and have a chat with. I feel like I could just call anyone and just, you know, ask them about anything. It's great. And that, for me, that level of networking and encouraging people to be involved and to collaborate has been fantastic, and it's only helped us grow.
Yeah, as Ross said, the communication and just the opportunity. So I know I've been obviously on it a lot less than both of you, but for me, it feels like I've done loads in such a short space of time. But probably my best memory so far is getting the opportunity to go down to Amelia Street, meet with the director of HR, director of leadership and management, director of learning and curriculum, and really getting that exposure to not just, you know, the different sections of the business, to the leaders of that section. And that was amazing. That was awesome, seeing how they run it from kind of top down, which, you know, usually 90% of the time you look at it from bottom up. So that was a hell of an experience.
I think for myself, it was, I think, a few things that kind of stick out to me is sitting down with, like, say, Alec Reed, to be able to talk about the ideas that I've had for the business, or things I've thought of that could be improved. I think that's a great opportunity, and I know not a lot of companies do that, to sit down with, you know, the founder of the company and have that kind of conversation. So I think that was something that I really enjoyed. I guess the ability to do a qualification that I actually completed in March as well. That was really useful, because I never thought, again, a company would sponsor that. But the fact that we sponsored that, I was able to kind of go out and do it in work time. I didn't have to take any annual leave. I could just go and do that qualification, which is going to help me towards my role now. Is, again, something I've really enjoyed doing. And then overall, some of the stuff that Ross and Dylan said around, I guess, making friends. A lot of times when you talk about Reed, everyone's like, oh, I've made loads of friends here, I've met a lot of people that I really get along with. And you think, oh, is that even possible? When you start working for Reed, you really do see that coming through, as I've met some amazing people that I don't just see as colleagues anymore. They're actually my friends that I can go to for other things as well, which is really nice to have.
Yeah, definitely. I think anyone you bump into from Reed will say it's the people that have made kind of Reed what it is. So in terms of well, I was going to say for those that have rotated, it's only you, Nabida, that's rotated. What was your favourite rotation, and why have you chosen to rotate?
So I obviously did my first year as a recruitment consultant. I liked it. It was a lot of fun. It was really different, but I knew it wasn't me. Like I felt like in that role I was pushing a lot harder, and I was just constantly pushing and pushing, and something wasn't working for me, and I don't know what it was. So I actually spoke to my mentor that was provided to me by Reed, and I was like, "Look, I'm not sure what's going on, but this just isn't working for me." And he said, "Why don't you look at your other options?" And then literally I think it was July last year that I got my list of rotations that were possible for me. I saw like a list of 25 roles, and I was like, "That's so many options. I don't know what to do with this." Again, I sat down with my mentor to kind of choose 5 roles that I was interested in. I applied to kind of all 5, and then I chose to do this one, which I'm in now as a customer success manager. And I have to say, this is my favorite role. I think it really represents who I am as a person, with the kind of contact I have with my customers, the contact I have with my colleagues. But at the same time, I think it was a sales element that kind of really I found really hard in my first year, but I don't have to do that part now, which is why I think I'm able to excel in my current role a lot more.
Brilliant. Now, not to leave you out, Dylan, but I'm going to go to Ross and ask him why you didn't rotate. So why did you rotate?
No, I didn't rotate. I'm going to be honest, I didn't have the best first year as a recruitment consultant. I didn't perform sort of maybe to the levels of the top grads, but I looked and sort of sat down with my mentor, had a bit of time with my manager as well, and we kind of looked at it and said, well, what can we do with my approach in order to improve things? And we sort of said, let's go with this networking first approach. And I've been real fortunate that I've been kind of allowed some sort of creative license with that. So particularly I recruit for software developers. So one of the things that I've done is create like a networking event for software developers, like a meetup that, lots of people can come to, and that had never been done in Reed before. Whereas now the group that I've got is, I think it's one of the top 5 or 10, I can't remember. It's one of the larger software development groups in the UK in terms of numbers signed up on Meetup and things like that. So that's been real fun for me, and it was one of these things where I knew that I just wanted to give it one more shot, and sticking at it, I saw that by having the attitude of kind of everything playing off long term and doing everything networking first, and not necessarily rushing everything for quick wins and easy money and things like that, I was able to build up. And sort of my last few months prior to lockdown had been my best few months since I joined the business, and things are still going pretty well for me during lockdown as well, so it's been fantastic. And now that I am where I am, I can't really see myself doing anything else now that I've kind of progressed through this. I know that this is what I want to do, and I want to move sort of up the chain in this career path rather than going anywhere else. And by having that networking, that team around you that supported you, that I definitely wouldn't have got without the grad scheme, I was able to kind of create something that I really enjoyed doing.
Yeah, and it was definitely worth it for you to kind of stick with where you are. So it's a big challenge as well. I mean, for you to kind of go against everything that you're maybe experiencing, that's saying this maybe isn't for you, and to stay there, and it's really paid off for you. So it's a real credit to you that you've done that.
Thank you.
Now that goes on very nicely to the next question, which is, what's the biggest challenge that you've faced and how have you overcome it? So Ross, if that's your challenge, then you don't have to answer this one, but
there's individual stuff within there, but I'll let the others go first and then go from there.
I mean, for myself, I've been quite lucky where it's been quite a smooth journey. So big challenge was starting with absolutely no one. So most people come in as an employment advisor, and they maybe get someone's old caseload. They get all of their members, which be 40 to 50. You start from there, you help them, you build relationships. Whereas I came in with 0 and had to start from scratch. So the first month or two, I was really struggling for kind of things to do, because when you've got 15 people on your caseload, unless you see one a day for 15 days, you're going to be seeing them twice, 3 times, 4 times. And it was learning to kind of not overkill the relationship, but also keep them engaged. It was quite tough, but I worked hard, just kind of cracked on, got more people onto the caseload, which then livened it up a bit. But the first month or two was that bit more of a struggle, just as things started to speed up. But kind of, as we alluded to earlier, patience, just know that the schemes work for a reason. Anyone you talk to in a higher position, honestly, I swear 70 to 80% of them are in the graduate scheme at some point of their life. It works, just be patient, and it might be tough to start with, but things pick up pretty quick.
I guess for myself, it was definitely my first year, because like I said, I really struggled in my first year kind of settling into that sales role. And I remember, I think it was like 3 months in, I spoke to my manager's manager, and I sat down with her and I was like, look, I'm really struggling. I don't know what I can do. It feels like everything I do goes wrong. Like everything's going against me. I don't know what to do with this. And she sat me down, she gave me some really good advice, and she's like, look, you're just going to have to keep pushing. It's one of those roles like you can't have quick wins in. You just have to kind of sail through this bad patch and you will get to the other end. And I used to have this conversation with her like every other week because I was struggling so much. I was calling people, no one would answer. And I remember like after all of that, as I was kind of moving on to my next role, I had my best period in Reed. It was like, I think I billed like 20k or something, and that was the best period I'd had. And everyone was like, look, you're leaving now, but you managed to kind of get through that part. If you maybe stuck on to kind of do a bit more, you would have been able to do even better. But I think that for me was like the biggest challenge, kind of fighting through that urge to just give up, because there was a couple of people around me who'd actually quit like as soon as they joined, as even on entry level roles, they just thought, you know what, I'm just going to quit. But I was just like, no, I can't quit. I have to keep pushing. And I managed to get through to the other end. So I thought that was really worth it.
And it really paid off for you if you came out with your best period as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that. I think something that I always found kind of profound was that one of the girls on my team sat me down on my first day and said, look, I'm just going to let you know, like, it might seem hard for the first sort of year or so, but it's always going to be worth it. Recruitment is always harder at the beginning. And for me, like taking that advice and moving through that, didn't even come from a manager. That just came from a colleague who, you know, wanted to help me out. Even through the rough patches, like my team were always there saying, look, give it a few more months. I promise things will pick up. You're doing the right things. And sort of from going through there, like I sort of went through a similar stage. It was like prior to lockdown, I think 5 months in a row, I had my best ever back to back and was still getting better and better. So, you know, it does come round in the end, and you know, it's worth it sticking at it.
Yeah, definitely. I think they say that it takes 6 months for you to fully understand the role or something. And I think you both have shown that that is definitely the case. And to you as well, Dylan, you coming from probably the hardest position that an employment advisor has to come into, you've really shown that it didn't hold you back, which is obviously really good for you all. We're now on to the last question, which is brilliant. So how do you envision the graduate scheme helping develop your future career?
I think if you don't mind, I'll start. So the biggest thing that I kind of want to focus on now is mentoring. I've kind of set my goals of where I want to be over the next few years within the business and what sort of positions I want to be in. And having sat and spoke with my managers, I know what I need to do to get there and what performance I need. So I think the thing for me now is more focusing on ensuring my consistency, ensuring that I'm picking up things, because the worry I have is I don't want to get too comfortable in the job and start getting sort of, you know, casual about certain things and maybe letting certain things slip through. It's making sure you're still on it to progress from there. I think that from here, it's like the last year of the grad scheme is almost the first year of my career with Reed in terms of long term. I can see where I want to go. I can see what I've got to do, and I can utilize this next year to kind of get my head down and focus in terms of getting further up in terms where I want to be in the business.
Yeah, for me, probably to contrast Ross obviously being in my first year, my kind of goal is to almost make the vision come to life a little bit. So to be honest, use the grad scheme in every way I can. So fingers crossed on these rotations coming up. For me, probably my goal is to lean towards more the kind of HR side, learning development, if possible, but also use the professional qualification. That's a big thing, and use all the other stuff that Reading Partnership has that you might be able to get a bit of an early look in being a graduate. So I was invited to the Future Managers Academy, and I'm going ahead with that in September, which is going to be really cool. And it's probably something that someone in my position, it might be a little bit too early to do, but as a graduate, you are given that extra chance, and it's just, I'm just going to use all the tools I've got and fingers crossed work my way through. So yeah.
Brilliant.
I think for me, I found like the industry I want to be in. So obviously I work in customer success, so I know I want to kind of remain within that. I think I'm going to spend kind of the next few months or the next year of my graduate scheme figuring out what that pathway looks like. So right now I'm a customer success manager. Do I want to kind of take that further to be senior, head of? What does that next step look like for me? So I think that's what I want to focus on next, and kind of use the qualification I've done in project management to take on some of the projects that we have going on in Read Online right now. Make sure I'm still kind of developing other skills at the same time, because I don't like to kind of box myself into one thing. So at the same time, I'm still going to be open to other opportunities, but do definitely want to take that next step within customer success.
Brilliant. Well, that is the end of our webinar. So thank you very much, all three of you, for taking part and answering all the questions. To you that are watching this, I hope that's answered any questions that you have. If you have any others, then please email at read.graduates@read.com. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.